Hi guys, what's your favorite scary movie? For me, that answer obviously hinges off of the combination of different subgenres to make a horror movie as optimized as possible, because breaking things down that I like into its very molecules is the only way I can find enjoyment in this world. It's Beetlejuice, by the way. There are so many tropes that go into making a horror movie that just saying you like horror movies is like saying your favorite dish is pasta. Like, do you like something that's more supernatural? Maybe something more on the bloody side. Or maybe you're weird and your favorite horror movie is Terrifier 3. And much like making spaghetti, you gotta find the right combination of the right ingredients to make something really special. So I'm gonna be ranking the ingredients of horror based on how much I think they contribute to a movie. And as always, don't take anything with a grain of salt. My word is law. First up on the chopping block, we have slashers. These basically defined what horror is today. Answer me this. What do you think the most popular horror movie is? Shut up, that was a rhetorical question. But what you were probably thinking about is Halloween or maybe Friday the 13th. And guess what? Those are all slashers. Slashers are the perfect blend of shock and suspense. It's getting to the point where it's hard to imagine a world of horror where slashers weren't even conceived. Like, maybe horror movies would just be overly artistic without them. And that doesn't sound too good. And honestly, these really speak for themselves. S tier, all hail. Next up, we got body horror. Now this subgenre basically boils down to one question. What's the best way we can fuck up a person for the rest of their life? And boy oh boy, we humans know how to screw with some humanity. Body horror revolves around the manipulation of a person until they toe the line of being considered a person. One of the most popular examples of this subgenre is Tusk, where the main victim gets turned into, get this, a walrus. And then there's Human Centipede, which is the most abhorrent, yet legal, trilogies out there on the internet. I'm not the biggest fan of shock being presented in this fashion, so I'll give this a comfortable B tier. Folk horror. Name me one movie that has folklore in it. Now name me another one that isn't the Blair Witch Project. The biggest contender of examples that I've been exposed to for this genre are fireside chats of skinwalkers and Sasquatches. These tantalizing tales are terrific in their own right, but they're more of a catalyst than anything else. For instance, you have a vampire movie with folklore elements, or you have a psychological movie with folklore elements. I feel like this pairs well with a lot of things, but it doesn't really have its own two legs to stand on. Very middle of the road, C tier. I like this one. Manipulation has always been a big scare factor for me, so you can imagine the look on my face when I found out that there were movies that sole purpose was to dig into your psyche and give you trauma. After all, I think horror shines best when it targets you. Like I said before, I'm not the biggest fan of killing people in grotesque ways for a couple of shocks. I've been on the butt end of one too many Reddit 50/50s for that to give me anything more than a light shock. Once the guy's dead, he's dead. Which is why I think it's much more horrifying to see someone have a mental breakdown Russian sleep experiment style. Seeing someone lose themselves because of another person or thing, that's a bee sting that persists long after the old penny and vinegar trick. It really digs into a viewer past what gore can ever do. A tier. Yep, I'm talking about books. If I were to sum up this subgenre in one word, it would be Dracula. Basically any book written in the Gothic period would be considered under this subgenre. And it's a shame since this subgenre gets overwritten so easily, since when a book gets adapted into a movie and or show, the Gothic fiction subgenre basically gets overwritten. Dracula the book may be Gothic fiction, but Dracula the movie, yep, that's a vampire movie. You know how video killed the radio star? Video also killed the Gothic fiction subgenre, but you don't hear anyone making songs about that. Since it's the most archaic subgenre, I can't give it anything higher than a C tier. I'ma keep it a buck with you. I'm the most slapstick bastard this side of the Mississippi. I'm the only one in my theater that clapped when Jack Black said let's Minecraft. I'd pass up sex to watch a new Fluffy special on Netflix. I'm funny, and I love a good joke, which is why I don't have to say much else. Comedy horror is second only to slashers, S tier. Picture this. You're an urbex explorer, and you're exploring an abandoned building. And on your exploration, you find an old camcorder right next to a door. So, naturally, you decide to take it home, clean it up, charge it, and see what's on it. And when you watch the video, it's a video of a guy getting eaten alive by homeless people. Found footage horror is so good, you can upload that very footage to YouTube, get millions of views, and a deal with Blumhouse. There's nothing quite like that uncanny feeling you get from watching a good found footage movie. Who would have thought that terrible quality would equate to a movie being scarier? Whoever that person is, was, or has yet to be, I'm sure they'll be glad to know that I'm putting this in A tier. You know what's better than sick experiments on the human form? Sick experiments on beings that didn't have much humanity in them to begin with. I'm talking Frankenstein's monster, and every other monster in pop culture that I can't remember right now. There's something about a monster being just outside of our capabilities to kill it. And while body horror is hard to watch because it's gross, monster movies are hard to watch because they're scary. But what if monster movies are still too much for that soft little animalistic reaction we call fear? Don't fret, because we've got metaphorical monsters. This includes anyone with zero morals. For instance, Chef Slowick, monster. The Joker, monster. My second grade math teacher, monster. There's so much you can do with this subgenre. You can even make an argument that monsters are in every single form of horror media. A tier. Lovecraftian horror, named after H.P. Lovecraft, the guy who wrote Call of Cthulhu, and nothing else. This subgenre revolves around there being some kind of entity that can wipe out all of humanity in one fart. It's supposed to make human beings feel insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe because one guy who can just so happen breathe in a vacuum exists. This doesn't really do it for me. If I see a giant space whale come out of the sky and start shooting gamma rays at Earth, I am pulling out a blindfold, lighting a cigarette, and waiting for my demise Looney Tunes style. Once you accept that the characters are fucked, the movie becomes a whole lot less scary, and you're pleasantly surprised when the characters actually live. B tier. I can count on two hands the amount of vampire anythings I've consumed that don't involve sex. Dracula, 1922 Nosferatu. And the latter was ripped directly from Dracula, which is a topic I covered in one of my previous videos. Hint hint, please make the view number go up. The two things that I think of when I hear the word vampire are Count Chocula and books that are banned from my local library. If I already didn't like the vampire stuff that I've already seen, I would straight up put this in C tier. But since I do like Nosferatu, I'll concede and give it a B tier. Zombies used to scare the shit out of me when I was a kid. Maybe it was because I grew up with the hellspawns that are the zombies from World War Z. And then when I matured, I watched Zombieland and thought I could solo any zombie there with my bare hands. These are the only two types of zombies that exist in Hollywood. They're either super soldiers or walking water balloons. One thing I never understood from zombie movies is why don't the main characters just clear out an island? Like, go down to one of the smaller Hawaiian islands, wipe it out, colonize it, and you're good. I think this is what they did in the trailer for 28 Years Later. B tier. Cosmic horror is Lovecraftian horror's younger brother that's going through an emo phase. It centers around the whole, we're insignificant in the grand scheme of the universe, but it doesn't do it in a gigantic monster, but rather, what if an alien invasion happened? Or what if there's a meteor gonna crash down and kill all of humanity? Once again, it makes us feel insignificant, but where this doesn't fly for me is what we already know about space. Unless a meteor teleported right outside of Earth, we could detect a world-ending death rock hundreds of years in advance. Also, the universe is doing this funny thing called expanding, which is pulling tons of galaxies that could have intelligent life away from us. Even if an alien civilization in Andromeda discovered light speed travel, it would take them 4.5 million years to reach the edge of the Milky Way. At least with Lovecraftian horror, it has nothing to do with science. B tier. Who gives a shit about witches? They're the least most scary monster in the history of monsters. The Blair Witch is a witch by title alone, the Sanderson sisters are more goofy than scary, and the Acolyte is scary because it's bad. They can work in horror, I guess, but in my opinion, I think that they're best left to the fantasy of D&D, C tier. Speaking of fantasy, I also thought this only had stuff to do with medieval crap, but not all the time. This is another book-oriented genre, and it's basically the same as Gothic fiction. Literally. The only thing separating this genre with Gothic fiction is the 100 years difference between Dracula and The Shining. Basically, if you wrote a horror-themed book now, this genre would be tacked onto it. But really, who reads anymore? Ugh. C tier. I would sooner be crucified than admit that gory movies are scary. Let's use Saw as an example. It's the lowest rated escape room because you have to torture yourself to get out. The kicker is, most people get turned into a pile of viscera before they actually get out. That's not scary. That's yucky. What makes Saw work is the way it forces someone to do whatever it takes to live. These guys put their own bodies on the line to see if they're truly worthy of escaping. Or something. But if Saw was just people dying in these crazy, wacky contraptions, the movie franchise would have crashed faster than a Zeppelin made of lead. D tier. If you're watching this, you more than likely live somewhere. A house, if you will. This house is your place of reprieve. This is where you live. This is where you stay. This is your safe space. Not anymore, because this guy named Samuel Little found his way into your bedroom, and he doesn't quite like the cut of your jib. There's nothing that'll send you into a flight or fight response faster than someone breaking into your own home. I mean, this is my house, where I live. There's enough dead hookers here to feed an entire Thanksgiving dinner, and I'll be damned if you tip this place off to the cops. A tier. Did you write the Book of Love, and do you have faith in God above? You do. Well, get ready to shake that faith like an apple tree at Animal Crossing, because religious horror has enough blasphemy to make Scientology look like Catholicism. I mean, have you seen that one deleted scene in The Exorcist? Too bad, because I'm not gonna show it. It's too much even for me. Look it up if you dare. But anyways, I don't even like using the Lord's name in vain, so you can imagine that I'm not the biggest fan of this. C tier. Remember that abandoned building I told you to imagine? You know, the one with the cannibals? That place was pretty scary, huh? It used to be an active place of work. It used to be alive and have people living in it. But now it's dead and filled with homeless cannibals. That's kinda scary, don't you think? If only there was a horror subgenre fit for that bill that I can put in C tier. Abandoned horror revolves around feelings of isolation, which is a pretty interesting concept in and of itself. Who wouldn't be scared of being stranded alone on an island? Me, because now I'm safe from the zombie apocalypse. I feel like there's only so much you can do with this before it starts to get repetitive, and at some point, you're just going to introduce the slasher anyway to spice things up a bit. C tier. Boom, bitch! I'm a ghost! I died, but I came back to the physical world just to fuck with you. I'm gonna rearrange your dishes and knock over a picture frame. And if I'm feeling zealous, I might grab your ankle. I am on the spectrum, how'd you know? Paranormal horror is basically the inverse of whatever witches bring to the table. They're diverse, interesting, creative, and 100% real. Seriously, I've had way too many things happen to me that I can only explain by me being under the influence. Unfortunately, I wasn't under the influence when a ghost punched my bed twice at 1 in the morning. Mr. Booberry hits way too close to home for me, so I gotta put this in A tier. I can't even begin to articulate how fucked up artistic horror is. Imagine taking a tab of acid and then watching Pink Floyd's The Wall, and then write a horror movie based on what you saw. You basically just take all the meaning out of psychological horror and min-max imagery. You thought body horror was weird. You haven't seen shit yet. So am I saying that horror should stray away from being artistic at all costs? Not at all. I mean, Terrifier was good enough to warrant a trilogy. What I'm saying is, there's a fine line you have to balance here, where psychological horror is right on that sweet spot. And unfortunately, artistic horror is way the hell over there. D tier. What's that? Your favorite genre is horror, and you haven't gotten laid in a decade, and your favorite movie is Twilight? Well, fortunately for you and only you, erotic horror exists. Now you could say ah while your bow gets chica till you wow wow. Unfortunately for me, I'd rather sex scenes be implied than actually shown to me. D tier. And that's all the unique horror subgenres that Google gave me. Again, my word is law, and my opinion is true. I probably could have condensed some of these into one entry, but where's the fun in that? I hope you learned something, because this script is 5 pages long and took a collective of 3 days to write. Woe is me. Stay safe, eat cake, and I'll see you later.